Hello and welcome back to our series of educational videos for Northern Virginia homeowners. My name is Frank Felker and I'm here with Jeremiah Davies, founder and president of Orion Home Improvements. How are you today, Jeremiah?
I'm doing great, Frank. Thanks for asking.
I appreciate you coming back to share your wisdom and experience with us on various topics related to home improvement, home remodeling, maintenance, repair, and so forth. Today, we're going to talk all about doors, everything you wanted to know about doors, but were afraid to ask. And we're going to talk about a variety of different types of doors in your house that you may choose to get replaced. And let's start with this, Jeremiah. We're going to talk about different kinds of doors and things to look at and think about when purchasing or replacing a different type of door. But just in general, why would a homeowner consider replacing a door? What's the benefit? What's wrong with their current door, and why do they need a new one?
Well, the doorway to a home is how you get in and out of your happy place, and so it's pretty important to make sure that it functions and operates the way you're supposed to. A lot of the reasons we see folks calling us and talking about replacing the doors are kind of around functionality and appearance. Those are the two big ones. If the door doesn't close or open properly, doesn't lock properly, or you just feel a lot of energy loss around the door with drafts and excess heat, then those are some major functionality issues that you want to have addressed. But on the flip side, let's say you have a dark entryway right inside the home or a foyer, and you'd like to add some light to there. Maybe taking a solid door off and replacing one that has some glass paneling on the front to allow some more light to come in can help a home feel a little more bright and warm and inviting. So appearance and functionality are the two main issues why people decide to make that jump in the door replacements.
That makes a lot of sense. And certainly from a functionality standpoint, door won't open, the door won't close, the door won't lock. The door's letting air in and out. All of us have been in places where you can just feel the draft coming in underneath or around a door. And it's just like there's a big hole in the wall letting energy flow out. So let's start with the main door, the entry door, the front door, if you will. There's a lot of different materials that front doors are made out of. If you would, could you walk us through some of the primary materials that front doors or entry doors are manufactured from, and why there are different materials? What are the benefits of different materials one to the next?
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to talk about that with you, Frank. And what we look at is that doors, they really come in three kind of types and finishes. You're going to have your traditional wood entry doors, and these doors are obviously made from oak, cherry, and different hardwoods. They have some great advantages with the warmth and beauty of wood. They're able to be stained many colors, and the scratches can be easily repaired on these things. They can be sanded down and taken care of. The limitations of the wood door are going to be the regular maintenance that comes on there. They have to be stained and resealed, and that's going to have to happen every 1 to 2 years, depending on which direction, cardinal direction the door faces. Home faces south, the southern sky. That sun's going to beat on that front door a lot more and cause the wood door to need maintenance a lot more often. Wood is also the least energy efficient option of the different doors out there. So while it does bring strength and beauty and some advantages to it, we see a lot of people in the market are moving to one of the next two options, and that's going to be either fiberglass doors or steel doors. And so these are talking about the skin of the door, the exterior sheet of what it's made of. Fiberglass has some great benefits. It has all the benefits of beauty and staining and the things that go along with the texture of the wood look in the fiberglass, but you don't have the rotting issue or the bubbling and other things that happen with the paint that's on a door. Now with a steel door, you're going to have a much stronger and secure door, but the disadvantages that go along with steel are the fact that that it does dent if you don't have a high quality door on the house. You have the ability to get scratches, and if you don't have a good treatment on the steel underneath the paint, it can start to rust. And so when we're talking about the fiberglass, the steel, or the wood doors as being the main types, there's a lot of stuff that goes into each of these different types of doors to say whether you're going to have kind of the low end version or something that's got the bells and whistles and the stuff you don't really think about that makes it a high end door.
Now, you say high end door, and I was just the thought that occurred to me. Of those three manufacturing material types, wood, fiberglass, and steel, is one of them inherently more expensive than the rest? Or is it just a question of what type of door with the other features that the door has that determines how expensive a door may be?
From my own personal experience, I have found that the true wood doors, especially ones with extra, kind of fancy decorative features, are going to be the most expensive of the doors that are out there. You get a very high-end steel door that's using very thick gauge steel and great interior insulating and construction components. On a custom model, you can probably rival the cost of a wood door. But those two are the ones, and you'll see, if you go to a mansion that's got two double doors with 8-foot half rounds and some glass around there, chances are that's a custom crafted wood door, super high end, super expensive. But for the average consumer like you or I, we're probably going to be sitting in the fiberglass or steel replacement just because of their longevity and obviously the ease of maintenance. We get lots of styles that'll fit all of our kind of homes without that huge cost and burden of having to maintain a wood door.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll have you know that at my mansion, I do have the 8-foot full wood doors custom with it and with a lot of different features. But in any event, we could talk a lot about and spend a lot of time going into depth of different manufacturing materials and so forth. But we really want to keep moving forward and give our viewers an overview of all the things that they need to keep in mind. So let's move on to the next point, which has to do with side lights on a door set. And when you put in a door, sometimes you don't just put in a new door, you also put in new side lights or add side lights that weren't there previously. What exactly are side lights and what kind of options do I have regarding them?
Well, a door that is surrounded by windows has two different names. You've got the side lights are the long skinny pieces of glass that kind of basically frame the door left or right side or both. And then you also have what's called a transom, which would be the block of wood that's over top of a door. So side lights and transoms are the extra glass features that come along with these doors. The great advantage to having that is obviously just letting in the light. And when you see a home that's got a full transom side light combination, it adds a little extra something to the face of that house that that you can't put your finger on unless you know what you're looking at. It just has a bit of pizzazz. Now, there is a bit of a challenge with these doors. If you're looking at adding a side light to your door or adding a transom to your door, a few things have to be considered. When you look at the opening in the space, let's take a home that has a split foyer layout. You walk in and you have a little set of stairs that goes up, a little set of stairs that goes down, and a little landing where the door is. What you want to do is you want to take a look to the space on the left and right side of the door, and you want to find out what's there. Are there electrical connections? Do you have some ductwork or an air vent that may be in place there? What is the wall made of? Do you have a brick front home, and is there going to have to be masonry work that goes along with cutting open and making a larger hole? How thick is the wall? And a few other things that really go along with it. So just by asking a couple of questions and taking a step back and looking at the big picture, you can see if a side light situation or a transom situation would be right for your home. And once you make that decision, then let the construction begin.
That's great. It's good to know that there are options relative to that, and that you can have side lights on one side, on both sides, right or left. There's just a lot of different things that can be done, and it is true, as you mentioned, it can make a tremendous difference in the curb appeal or just the immediate first impression that a home has as you approach it, based on the front door and how it's framed and so forth. Now, when I'm choosing a door, the door itself is kind of a separate thing from like the handle and the lock and a lot of other things that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are generically referred to as the hardware of the door. What sort of options do I have there, and what sort of things should I be looking for or asking my contractor about?
Well, some of the things that I like to mention when we're talking about hardware, and if we take a half step back, new doors these days can be customized with so many options, from the hardware style to the hardware finish to the lock sets and then colors of the door glass package. And so there's really a lot of options. And these days, what we'll usually do is sit with the customer and kind of go through the options, build a mock-up door, and then take that that particular model that they mocked up and get a price directly on that that custom order from our manufacturer, and then run up the estimate with our customers. But jumping back to the hardware question, a few of the most important things that I like to keep in mind when I'm talking to my customers are obviously with finishes. If you have bright brass finishes on the inside of the home, but let's say you have a dark antique bronze light fixture outside, you want to make sure that you're matching up your hardware to match up the finishes. Get the bright brass interior handle, the dark bronze exterior handle. What do you feel like having? Do you want to have a standard Georgian kind of egg handle set with a regular lock, regular deadbolt? Or would you rather prefer a big swooping kind of full grip handle with a thumb press opener? The downfall of that is you don't have the regular, standard door lock. The only thing that locks that type of door is the deadbolt. So you always have to have your key with you when you go out and you want to lock your door. Outside of that, with hardware, there's a few options. You do have the difference between, let's say, open bearings, and these are the bearings that are on the hinge side of the door. And as you open the door and you end up getting that kind of squeaky, creaky door, the lubrication in the hinges tends to wear out. Or you could get a closed ball bearing hinge, which have a lifetime guarantee not to squeak and operate. So again, taking you from kind of the entry level box store door to something that is going to last, the life of your home is all in the small differences. The last thing I would obviously recommend is that if an entire home has the same key and you can use one key to get everywhere, I'd make sure that you're looking at getting a new handle set that can be keyed to your exact key set. Schlage is a very popular manufacturer of handle sets. And so every Schlage key has a small code on there. A manufacturer should be able to take that Schlage code and key the door up to that exact key. So you don't have to have a locksmith come out and rekey the entire house or change your stuff up. So small details make the end result and the end user experience that much better.
That's wonderful information. And two things that you talked about there are the kind of reason why it's so important to speak to an expert like yourself. I had never thought about the idea that you could have a different color and finish on the hardware on the outside of the door as on the inside of the door, because of course we're only looking at one side of it at a time, and we want it to match inside and we want it to match outside with whatever's around it and complementing it. And then the detail that you just gave there about the technology that allows somebody to not have to call a locksmith to get everything rekeyed. That's a great piece of information that could save somebody hundreds of dollars. So,
well, I'd like to also tell a small funny story. There's a manufacturer out there, Provia, and they have a lock set that's called the Trilinium lock set. Basically, it has 3 points of connecting locks. These doors were actually banned in New York City because the drug runners were putting on this high-end, great lock set door, and the police couldn't smash in and raid their place. So yeah, when you're talking about lock sets and some of these hardwares, there's things that can make you really safe or keep people from getting in if you want them to, or there can be just stuff that you go get off the the box store counter and a couple of screwdrivers will replace yourself. So lots of options, lots of stuff to think about, and it really is a good idea to talk to a professional contractor to guide you to get the end result, which is what you want, a beautiful finished door on your new house.
You're absolutely right. And that is a funny story about the drug dealers choosing, they know their doors. Apparently, it's a very critical success factor for their business. You just mentioned one thing about going to a big box store and buying the hardware or what have you. And a lot of times you'll see a door at, Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and they've got, it's like $500 or $300, and it just seems unbelievably inexpensive. We talked at one of the previous videos that we've done about $189 windows actually being sort of a myth. But why is it, not so much why is it that those doors are so inexpensive, but let me put it a different way. Why shouldn't I just go get a $500 door at the box store and install it myself?
Well, Frank, I'm not going to discourage you from doing that. And here's the reason why. Because A lower class door may have a good use. Let's say that you have a garage with an entry from the garage to the main living space. You may need a fire rated entry door that goes there. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a high end door for this use there. That'd be a perfect use for a box store door. But if we get into the meat of the question, which is what I'm thinking we're talking about here, is you walk down the aisle, you see those gorgeous doors, they've got the glass packages, and you look at the price tag. Then you talk to a contractor and you see what they're bringing as far as an estimate for a door replacement, and there's a bit of a confusion, it doesn't match up on the thought process for the pricing. And what we have to do is we have to actually understand how a door is constructed, what materials go into it, to understand how there's that much of a price difference on what seems and visually looks like an identical piece of equipment. Let's talk about something very simple, the insulation factor of a steel door. There's two types of polystyrene insulation. There's a methodology called expanded polystyrene, and then there's also extruded polystyrene. Now, expanded polystyrene is the type of stuff that you see in the styrofoam coolers. The white coolers, you break it apart, and it's got those little white balls that are inside of it. Basically, they take these little tiny, looks like grains of sand, and through hot air and pressure, they expand these and fuse the insulation together. Now, the flip side of that is an extruded polystyrene, where the extrusion process takes the same material, runs it through the process, and instead of having a bunch of fluffy balls that are bonded together, we have a full closed cell insulation that has a higher R value when exposed to higher temperatures. It lasts longer, and it's a stronger material. So the same polystyrene, but how it's made costs a little bit more to make one way, and putting in a door obviously raises the cost. So that's just one aspect. If we look into some other aspects about how the door is painted, is it hand painted or hand stained, or is it done with sprayers? If it's done with sprayers, is it done with electromagnetic static spraying that keeps the molecules bonding to the metal of the door, so as it bakes the finish, that you get a nice, smooth, even finish that has a uniform thickness? On another note, for the wood that's used inside the door to actually build the framing of the door, is it mechanically fastened? Is it dovetailed? Is it adhered? So the final piece on here would be the skin of the door itself. Is it a thicker skin? If you take a 20 gauge steel, you cannot bend a 20 gauge steel sheet with your bare hands. Whereas a 24 or 26 gauge steel, a box store skin door, you can bend that and eventually break the steel with your hands. So again, when we're talking about a door that visually looks this identical, you've got to dig in and see, the components that are there. And the question I ask my customers is, when we're talking about this purchase, do you want to buy your next door, or do you want to buy your last door? Because if you want to buy the next door, go get one from the box store, put it in, give it 4 or 5 years, and then a couple of years of trouble and headache, and then we'll go through the replacement process again. Or you can get a high-end door that's got the custom features, the looks you want. It's going to last a lifetime, and you don't have to worry about calling us back for a door issue once it's in.
That's great advice, Jeremiah. And obviously there's a lot to know when it comes to doors. Let's move on to another type of door, something that I think of in my mind as a sliding glass door. What you just mentioned, a whole lot of things to keep in mind about an entry door. I'm sure there are similar features to keep in mind about a sliding glass door. What should I be thinking about? What questions should I be asking my contractor when I'm thinking about replacing that type of door?
Well, the first thing as a contractor that I do, if you mention that, is I kind of shift your thinking to from sliding glass door to patio door. A patio door is basically that. It's either a sliding door, one that swings, or one that folds. And by folding, let's go ahead and picture, let's say, what looks like 2 sliding glass doors, 4 panels of glass side by side. And you can actually grab those doors in the middle, and as you slide them open, they will fold open, and a little track on top and bottom will allow that to open all the way up. So you end up with a full wall of windows, so to speak, fully open, allowing a lot of breeze to come in. Very popular with any of our customers that live near water, or a really beautiful kind of backyard scenario where they want to have the fresh air come in. They don't want to have anything impeding them going to their deck. So again, we would actually look at what makes sense for you. Do you want to just slide the door open and only have one area you can go in and out? Do you want to change your sliding glass door to a swinging French patio doors, so you can open up the patio door and have, instead of just 30 inches of access, 60 to 70 inches of access in and out that area. Or do you want to go ahead and cut that wall and add yourself a wall of windows with the folding door? So, well, when we're talking about these things, obviously there's stuff that goes in there with the energy efficiency of the glass, blinds that go in between the two panes of glass, so you don't have blinds that are flopping all over the place, and you can still get a little bit of privacy. And then, of course, the materials. There's the aluminum, and my preferred is either going to be fiberglass or vinyl for the framing on these units. But again, it comes down to there's lots of options out there, and the most important thing to do as a consumer is to really look at all the options and see and be made aware of what's available, and then you can decide what's right for you.
Those folding glass doors sound very luxurious. That just sounds really neat. And I can see where that would be a cool feature to have, and to just open it up, and if you're entertaining or whatever, just easily be able to bring stuff in and out. That just sounds great. That sounds like a wonderful thing to have, as you say, on the waterfront, or maybe any house, any kind of house that you have a deck or patio to go out to. And another feature you just mentioned that I had not seen, but I can picture it, is having the blinds inside, in between the panes of glass, opening and closing, so that they're not flopping and getting bent and messed up. That sounds like a neat feature as well. Do you see a lot of people going with that feature?
Every customer that I have that wants a sliding door or patio door, and they have a dog, I recommend getting the internal blinds, and most of them take my advice. Too many times, the dog just jumps up and paws at the windows, starts ripping down the blinds, and that's the number one cause of blind damage or animals. But yeah, people really enjoy the feature. It's really amazing. Everything's internal. There's a small magnet that gets clipped to the outside of the glass that allows you to kind of lift the blinds up, let them back down, and tilt them to whatever level of light you want to come in. Just a fantastic feature. I have it in my own home, and I love it.
That's great stuff. Well, let's move on to a door in the house that's a little less luxurious, a little less glamorous, and that would be the garage door, that the big door that opens to let you drive your car in and out. What sort of features are there, or how do I know when it's time to replace the old garage door? How do I know that this thing has run its course and it's time to get it replaced?
Well, most of the time when we're replacing garage doors, it's due to new drivers. You get a bang or a ding on the door. It doesn't want to open or close. Something happens where it goes down and it gets on a toy that didn't get out of the way of the sensor, and so we have some damage. So that's really what it comes down to, is damage. Once you have a good door in, if it's got a good insulation and it's not letting a lot of air leak around the garage door itself, if you have an insulated garage space, then there usually isn't a need to replace the door itself. A lot of the calls that we do get, however, kind of revolve around the door opener. It's hard to open. It's loud. It's clanky. It bangs around. It feels like my whole house is going to fall down as soon as that door starts going up. And so what we tend to do in that case is we like to direct our customers to some DIY stuff. If they've got some WD-40, some grease, and basic wrench and screwdriver tools, they can do a lot of maintenance on these doors themselves to lube up and tighten the rollers, to tighten the track, and to just make sure that everything is tight. It's just like a car. Once you drive your car for so many miles, you've got to go get it serviced up and make sure everything isn't going to rattle apart. And the same thing with the door. You may go 4 or 5 years opening the door once in the morning and once at night every time you pull the car in or out, and you don't really think about it, that it needs service and that it rattles around and bolts and nuts get loose and lubrication goes away. So those are some of the main calls we get. And then just correct your earlier statement. Garage doors can be luxurious. Just like you saw in that mansion with the big 8-foot doors you got for yourself, we can put some great luxurious garage doors on there too for you, Frank.
That's great. I don't have to be ashamed of my garage doors. They can be high class. That's great stuff. Okay, well, let's I have a question though. You talked about the openers. Obviously I don't own a mansion. I've had a couple of pretty traditional and humble suburban homes, but in 2 of the homes I've owned, I did have garage doors with automatic openers, and in both cases they were extremely loud. And I take it this is one of these areas where technology has kind of advanced now into the 21st century. And there actually, is this actually true? I've never witnessed it with my own ears, but is it actually true that there are motors that drive garage doors that are quiet?
Yes, there are, Frank. It's a great question, and there are. And there's a few things that can be done with doors that door openers that aren't so quiet and make them a little quieter. The most common one we see is that garage door openers are installed without vibration pads. All vibration pads are little quarter-inch thick pieces of rubber that get placed between the mounting surface and the garage door opener itself. And by giving the vibration pad to take some of the movement, it kind of takes that reverb and echo that the garage door creates out of the walls, which kind of help to make it even louder when it's going through the house. Another thing that we see is that folks think that their garage door opener is making a lot of noise when it actually is the tension springs. As your garage door goes down, it's very heavy, and to keep a small motor from overheating, you'll notice that your door has springs and cables that basically, as the door gets further down, the springs get more tension. So at the very beginning, when the door starts coming up, you have a lot of spring, which is pulling the door up itself. And those springs can cling, clang, and make all sorts of noises. So outside of just replacing the garage door opener itself, which you can do, and they do make quieter models, there's a few other items that you can think about as far as reducing the noise. So if you have someone that works a later shift, they come home and they open the garage door when the kids are already sleeping, and unfortunately, the kids sleep right underneath that garage door at the second floor, and they wake up every time it goes up and down. A few small maintenance items can reduce that without spending that big chunk of money on the garage door opener. But if that's what you need, and that's what's going to solve the trick, then great to get a great company to come in and do the little things while they replace it, so it really makes it quiet for you.
Great stuff. Well, let's talk about a door that just by its very name sounds kind of classy. That's French doors. It seems to me that my understanding is that those can be some of the most expensive doors that you could either have installed from scratch or replaced. Is that true? And again, are there certain questions that I should be asking my contractor and certain features that I should be keeping in mind when I'm purchasing a French door set?
Sure thing, Frank. And to kind of just, I don't want to look at what's staring us obviously in the face, but the reason that a French door is so much more expensive is because you're pretty much buying two doors. And so while you may not pay exactly double what a single door would cost, it is going to be significantly more expensive because it is like buying a second door unit. French doors are fabulous, and usually what we'll have is a full mock-up where both sides look identical. You'll have a main operational side, and then one side that is just a fixed feature. It's got locking pins on the top and bottom of the door, and so it really doesn't move. What we really have seen in these is if you get a larger house that has bigger furniture, you'll love having the French door. You open it wide open, and you have no problems getting your furniture in and out of this this entryway. The one drawback that I have seen kind of bite some homeowners in the tail is that maybe they have a side or rear entrance that has a sliding glass or a patio style door, and the opening is big enough, or so they think, for a French door. But the problem is with entry doors that go on a main entrance of a home versus the patio and sliding doors, there is a height difference. And so whereas you think that you may be going to get that Home Depot door for your sliding glass door entry, you get your French door open, you go to put it in, and now your French door is 2 inches too tall. So now you have to cut out the header, reopen the size, and do a lot of work, or deal with a contractor who knows what's talking about. They order a custom sized door on the beginning, and you can get that to slide in the right way. French doors, they have their purpose, they have their place, and if your home will accept a French door, they just make an absolute additional beauty to the house. The only thing that we want to say is if you're going with the French door, don't skimp on the costs. Because you have one side that opens so much and has a lot of wear and tear, what can happen is that you can actually see the wear and tear and the use and the abuse on a lower cost door on the operational side much more than you can on the fixed side. So you have two identical panels, but one looks very, very worn within just a couple of years. High-end doors with better finishes and stronger hardware, it's going to prevent it from wearing out so soon, and the door will look newer and nicer for much longer than with the lower cost stuff.
Great stuff. I had never thought about that fact that one door of the two in the pair opens and closes all the time, and the other one almost never opens and closes. And clearly that can have a big impact on the wear and tear. Well, we've talked about a lot of different types of doors. Is there any particular type of door that we haven't talked about that you have seen homeowners replace on a relatively frequent basis, that maybe there's little tips and tricks they need to know about that kind of door?
Absolutely. And that door that we, I guess, haven't talked about is a storm door. It is common on lots and lots of houses, and there's very varied styles, from solid pieces of glass to venting to solid styles. So my recommendation is this: if you need to replace both your storm door and your regular door, I would definitely replace them at the same time by getting a storm door and replacing the storm door first. And then a year later, 2 years later, getting the front door replaced. You have to take apart the storm door that's installed. All the hardware comes off. It's been opened and closed and used on the old door frame. New door goes in, new door frame, new capping. You put the old storm door that's only just a couple of years old now. It doesn't want to fit just right. So I would definitely say if they need to be replaced, and they're going to be replaced relatively close together, do it at the same time. Now, with for me and my customers, there's a few things that I like to see in a storm door that really makes living with it a lot better. The type of door that we recommend for our customers, it almost acts like a double hung window, where you have a top sash on the storm door that can go down and a bottom sash that can go up. But the really neat thing about these is that there's a roll-up screen in the top. So as we pull the top piece down and open it up, fresh air comes in, but a screen is right there to keep any bugs and stuff out of there. Fantastic for those spring and fall days when the temperature is just right and you want to get some airflow without having the bugs come in. The thing that we see a lot of folks go is, well, I don't need to get fancy. I'll just get the one where we have a screen and we have glass, and we'll swap them out as we need to. And almost always we find that screen tucked up in the attic with some old baby clothes scattered around it in boxes. And the great idea they had when they made that purchase ends up never being used. They never opened that door to allow the fresh air to come in. So I really would just recommend that, obviously, with the thickness of the metal, the longevity of the hardware, how everything goes together, you can get yourself a $100 screen door, or you can get a $900 screen door from a top end, a huge price range. And what we say is just look for the features and benefits that you want on the door. If you want it open, you want to get a breeze and you want to let some light in, do it. They make doors that are energy efficient enough where on a sunny winter day, you can open up your main door, let the light pour in through the storm door and not get the drafts and the cold coming through. Now that, I think, is amazing.
That's great. That's great. I hadn't even thought about storm doors. So here we are. We've talked about entry doors. We just talked about storm doors, talked about garage doors, patio doors, and French doors. So I would have to say that that's been a fairly thorough covering of all the types of doors that you could have in your home. And thank you so much for sharing all this with us, Jeremiah.
As always, it's been a pleasure, Frank, and thank you for your time.
And thank you for watching and listening with us today. We hope we've been a benefit to you. Please check out our entire series of home improvement educational videos for Northern Virginia homeowners on YouTube and elsewhere. And be on the lookout for our next installment. Till next time, with Jeremiah Davies, I'm Frank Felker. Thanks for watching.